Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest installation of our weekly Gaza War update. I'm pleased, as always, to be joined by two of Jinsa's esteemed Israeli generals. General Amidror is, of course, a distinguished fellow here at Jinsa, and he is Israel's former national security advisor to the Prime Minister. General Aish is the Julian and Jenny Josephson Senior VP for Israeli Affairs here at Jinsa, and he is the former Israeli Defense Attaché to the United States and Canada. I'm Jonathan Rui, Jinsa's Director of Foreign Policy. As usual, I've got some prepared questions for our panelists, but as always, encourage our audience to type any questions they may have into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to address all of those with the time we have. So, General Amidror, I'd like to start with you. It seems, I try to frame as many of my questions as possible in terms of how it appears here from America. It certainly seems that the Israeli operations in Gaza and the conflict in general have slowed down or paused. We've been hearing for a while that an Israeli operation into Rafah in far southern Gaza may be imminent, but we haven't seen anything happen yet. And I think more generally, it seems that the conflict is now relatively paused, or has certainly died down, and obviously there's no hostage deal. So could you explain for our audience, I guess, if what I've said bears any truth, and if so, when we might see a potential offensive into Rafah? Oh, sorry, General, you're muted.
Thank you very much for having me with you. It's a good opportunity to explain. Yes, the operation is not as intensive as it was before. What happened is that we finished the dismantling the hardcore and maybe the most dominant strong point of Hamas in the north. We are now cleaning it up. We are going into the north based on intelligence. We have few successes there. For example, we succeeded to confiscate all the materials, the data centers and the computers of the Center of Intelligence and Communication of Hamas, and we have huge intelligence from that might be applicable to when we want to continue to destroy the infrastructure of Hamas. Of course, it's not about the existence of weapon systems in the past, but some of them are still there, and we will follow and we'll see what we can be found and to be destroyed. In the middle, there is a full brigade which has the responsible for the corridor that we built from east to north to south to west to the sea, with separating the north from the other parts of the Gaza Street, and this is the main logistic corridor of the IDF forces. Whenever we have a need to go somewhere in that, we are entering, and then to the north and to the south. But this north is totally separated, isolated from the south, and people and munition cannot move from the south to the north. If people wants to move from the north to the south, we allow. Hamas doesn't like it and kill from time to time some people doing it, but we allow to do it. Part of the humanitarian help is coming through the corridor or into the corridor and then move to the north. And in the future, if you'll be some kind of a sea logistic capability to bring humanitarian help, it probably will be close to the corridor, because this is the area in which we have permanent forces. In the south, we almost finished Khan Yunis. We found in the last few weeks another area which we didn't have a good intelligence about, is a Qatari area which was built by Qatari money and was held by the prominent families of Hamas. In the last few weeks, we killed there hundreds of terrorists. We confiscated a lot of weapons and so on and so forth. And Khan Yunis is almost finished. We know that there are some underground tunnels that we didn't touch, but we think that most of it, the majority was, we were in, and we destroyed it. And maybe we will have to go back if we will have a new intelligence about what something that we lost when we didn't find when we were there. But in a week or two, we will finish to clean Khan Yunis. Probably it's towards the real end of it. And in the center, there are two big refugee camps. There are some areas there that we didn't touch yet. In one of them, it probably killed the number two of the Hamas when it was underground, and we had an intelligence that he's there, and we bombed the area, and he probably was died with some of his entourage. We didn't touch Rafah, and I want a minute to say something about Rafah. Rafah is the last stronghold of Hamas. From our point of view, to destroy Hamas means, at the end, to destroy Hamas in Rafah as well. We don't see, I think that it was Benny Gantz who said that you don't come to the fire and you deal only with 80% of it. If you have a fire, you take it completely, and I think that should be done. We should not leave 4 battalions of Hamas untouched. We have to go there to destroy the infrastructure, to go under the ground, to find the connection between Rafah and Egypt, and to block it. There are 4 problems, or not 4 facts that you have to take into account. One, we are in the kind of negotiation with Hamas. There was an offer on the table. Israel said yes, but the Hamas didn't answer the Americans and the Qataris and the Egyptians yet. Only if, and I don't know what will be the result, and don't know what will be the reaction of Hamas, so it's a very big if. Only if we know that there is no any millimeter of capability to continue the negotiation with Hamas, we will begin to think about Rafah. Rafah, we will not go to Rafah before we will know what about the negotiation. And if negotiations will lead to an agreement, to a deal, we will wait with Rafah. If the situation, if the negotiations does not lead to any deal, then we will consider Rafah. When we begin to consider Rafah, we know that there are 3 problems. One, there are more than 1.2 million people in Rafah. Why they are there? They had the dream to go to Egypt. The Egyptians don't let them. It doesn't matter. They are there. We know that we cannot fight in Rafah when there are more than 1 million people there. By the way, before the war, there were only 250,000. Now it's more than 1 million. Some say 250,000, 1.2 million, 0.4. Every number can be good as the other. But we know that you have to move at least 1 million people from there. And for that, we have to prepare the safe havens inside the Gaza Strip. Maybe part of it will be in the north, maybe most of it will be in the center. We don't know yet. We are working on that. We have some alternatives, and very much depends when it will happen. It will happen now. This is the best alternative. It will happen a month from now. It's another alternative. But this is issue number 1. Issue number 2, we want that it will be coordinated, or at least we want to inform the Egyptians before we begin it. They have interest because it is the point in which we will have kind of meeting their side, and we don't want that it will be ended with confrontation. So the Egyptian is an issue that we will have to take care for. I believe, and this is my assessment, that the more that they will see that we are moving the population to the center and to the north, the less that there will be a tension between us and them, because this is the main concern, that we will push Palestinians into the Sinai Peninsula. They despise the Palestinians, they're afraid from Hamas, They don't want them coming into Egypt. And last but not least, that we have to make all the plans. Okay, when we are going into Rafah, what is the military plan? Again, there are two alternatives. Everything is in a good shape. We are preparing it. There are at least one headquarters, which this is a job for preparing it and make all the plans. And we have the capability to do it. The decision will be taken by the political echelon only if it will be clear that we don't have any chance to continue the negotiations with Hamas, that the Egyptians don't worry about it or agree, or even they don't agree, at least they understand what we are going to do. That will not stop us. And the issue of the 1 million people. The question of Ramadan is connected to the issue. Why? Because we understood at the beginning from the Americans that they want to achieve the deal before the Ramadan, so the Ramadan will be part of the ceasefire time, blah, 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 blah. We learned that probably Hamas had other plans. They thought that they can use Ramadan, the sensitivity of Ramadan, to ignite the whole area. After 2-3 days of Ramadan, it's clear that they don't succeed. It doesn't work for them. So maybe now they will go to a deal. And if not, I don't think that Israel should push in the Ramadan the whole operation. We can wait another 3 weeks, the end of Ramadan, and then to do what I said about the population, the Egyptians, and everything that should be done. So this is the complex of Rafah, but I want to emphasize again, the decision here in the political level, supported by the professional level, that we have to go into Rafah and to dismantle the 4 battalions and the brigade and to kill as many terrorists. Probably we will find much more terrorists than had been there before the war, because everyone was pushed into Rafah, including the terrorists. So, in spite of the fact that that was probably the less dangerous and the weakest brigade of Hamas, probably we will find there that it is not going to be an easy journey. It's going to be very complicated because the fact that so many terrorists have been moved there, and because it is the last stronghold, and they understand it, they don't have where to run. So this is about Rafah. I hope that now it is better understood. We are moving slowly to build a defensive system around the strip. We are cleaning the area near the border, so it will be easier to monitor the access into the fence. And parallel to all of that, we are making all the civilian arrangements to rebuild the area, and I'm sure that you can hear more about from my colleague. He has much more information about that than me. Aish is very much involved in this operation of rehabilitating the area. Parallel to the fact that we are slowly moving to more kind of building the defensive system around the Gaza Strip, and we have in mind that we have to go into dismantle Rafah. We are very busy in Lebanon. In Lebanon, if I can say, the other side, the Hezbollah, is using the time to destroy as many real estate targets, mainly buildings around the border, in some camps of the IDF. Hezbollah lost more than 3,300 people in this operation. Just to give you the number, without moving 1 millimeter from the border, they lost 300 people. It's almost the number, or it's more than the number, that the IDF lost taking 80% of the Gaza Strip. So just to understand the numbers, I think that in its history, Hezbollah never had 5 months in which he lost more than 300 people. We, unlike Hezbollah, our targets are not civilians. If we destroy a civilian target, we apologize. We have a very clear plan what should be destroyed based on the opportunity that we have to use the Air Force. And we are slowly changing some issues on the ground or in the air. For example, we didn't fly over Lebanon before the war. Now we are flying with all what we have. I don't think how many years we didn't hit any target of Hezbollah in Debka. In the last 2 weeks, we did it 5 times, I think. And we are picking targets which are important for being in a better position from our point of view if we have to go to a big war. So we are eroding their capabilities in a very clear plan for long plan that for which we are doing each day another stage. So, but we have a problem that we cannot solve. Almost 100,000 Israelis had been evacuated from the north, and they cannot come back under these circumstances. If we do not find any solution to this problem, either by diplomatic agreement that the Americans and the French are pushing now, or that Hezbollah will change its the way that is allocating its forces around the border, we will have to go to a big war that we don't want. When, how, good question, no answers. It's very much depend on what will happen in Gaza. The more that we will feel that we are finishing in Gaza, the easier will be the decision to move forces from the south into the north. Many forces went out from the south into the north, basic for training, to be better prepared for a war against Hezbollah. We are now making efforts to learn on the lessons that had been learned by the IDF in Gaza. Part of it is applicable to the war in Hezbollah, part of it is not, and we have to forget it in a way. But the training, the forces are in a very high season of training because we want to be much better prepared. We see what we have relating to all the munition that which is needed in the Air Force, in the ground forces, and we are discussing it between ourselves, what should be done. The pressure is not because of the military situation. The military situation is very good. We feel very good about the military situation. The problem is the 100,000 civilians, which are refugees in Israel. And that cannot be continued. As you understand, in a democratic country, that is unacceptable. Think about America with the, I don't know, million refugees inside America because someone is bombing from America from Mexico. So we are preparing, and from the military point of view, as I said, it's a good situation. We are achieving what we want to achieve. The damage to this settlement, to the villages, to the cities in the north is huge. Probably close to 1,000 buildings have been destroyed. Most of them by Kornet anti-tank missiles, which used by Hamas, by Hezbollah, to hit the targets inside Israel. Some missiles as well, but the more problematic one is the Kornet. In Judah and Samaria, the sensitivity is there, no question. Because of Ramadan, we allow the Muslims to go to the Temple Mountain. In this, for them, it's the holy months. Up till now, touch wood, we didn't have two big problems. We have many forces there, police and military. Ironically, more than in Gaza, because we understand that this area is the target of Hamas to ignite the whole Middle East. They want something bad happening something will happen in the West Bank. They will connect it immediately to the Temple Mountain, to Al-Aqsa Mosque, and this is, in their view, is their best chance to ignite the Middle East. And this is why we are doing everything we can to not let it happen. And we are very aggressive in one way whenever we have any information about the terrorists, and we are very soft toward the needs of the Muslims in these holy months. So I hope that will work. Up till now, touch wood, they didn't succeed. Today is Thursday. It's the 5th day of Ramadan. Tomorrow will be a big test. It's the Friday of Ramadan, the first Friday of Ramadan, the first Friday and the last Friday of Ramadan. They are the most sensitive days. I hope that it will be ended well, and we will not have a huge problem there. Okay, this is the situation with the Houthis. Nothing is new. The Americans are doing their job. They don't deter the Houthis, but from time to time they are succeeding to destroy part of their capabilities and to intercept their threats. But I don't know about something new relating to the Houthis. These are the areas that we are covering now. My recommendation that Aish will speak about the rehabilitation around Gaza. I think it's a very important stage from the Israeli point of view.
Thank you, General. Thank you for that sort of around the world tour, so to speak, of the many things that are going on various fronts. And I want to come back and drill down a little bit more on some of those issues with the two of you as we go on. But as you mentioned, General Aish, I'd like to ask you about sort of rehabilitation efforts in southern Israel on the Israeli side of the boundary with Gaza. We've heard plenty and would like to probably talk more about it later on in terms of rehabilitating Gaza itself and humanitarian relief there. But as General Amador mentioned, and maybe it's not fully resonant here with American audiences, I mean, big parts of Israel have, both in the north and south, have been evacuated since October 7th. And obviously repopulating those areas and returning to some semblance of life as normal is crucial for Israel as a country. Could you enlighten our audiences a little bit about what is going on and what may be going on in the future in terms of helping return life to normal, at least in southern Israel?
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Amidor. Just for the sake of discussion, I would like to go back for a second to October 7th and to give the audience the basic information what have happened in October 7th and with whom we're dealing on the Israeli side. The atrocities of October 7th hit 5 local authorities, 47 communities, and at the end of the day, 65,000 residents from the Western Negev had to be evacuated from their homes. 65,000 from 47 different communities. I should say one of the communities is the city of Sderot. 36,000 residents. 500 homes were destroyed at that attack. And when I'm talking about fatalities, in the first day, we had 1,185 fatalities, all in all, to include the party that took place near Be'eri. And only from that region that we are talking about, there are 322 fatalities. 244 were kidnapped. 134 are still hostages inside Gaza. 209 kids are orphans after that. So the Israeli government decided to form a few days after October 7th, a special director for rehabilitation and the development of the northern Negev region. It was established according to a government decision with very clear functions. One is to undertake responsibility and authority for really manning and executing all the activities dealing with rehabilitation and strengthening the region. And for that sake, we had to collaborate with all the government agencies. And for that sake, we were allocated, I dealt with it as a volunteer, we were allocated something like 18 billion shekels. So with that, we went for a few goals to be achieved. One of them was really not just to rehabilitate, but to strengthen the fabric of life, to emphasize the mental, social, and material aspects. I already mentioned 500 houses that were totally destroyed. I didn't mention those who were, partly damaged. We were there to foster trust and, rebuild the resilience and the sense of, personnel and community over there. And at the end of the day, to drive construction and rehabilitation, as I mentioned. And we wanted the region to flourish. So for that sake, we decided to invest in its future in agriculture, industry, business, education, resilience, sport, culture, and many other areas. And we were doing it in 8 different teams. I won't drag you into all the details. One dealing with community, one with housing, one with agriculture, one with business, and so on and so forth. The good news is that after 5 months and after the precondition, which is security, was achieved, we can see most of the communities moving back. We were having them and dealing with them in hotels all over Israel. 251 hotels were hosting them. But now they are moving back to include the city of Sderot. Just to drag your attention, the city of Sderot is 800 meters, less than a mile from the border with Gaza. So the majority is moving back. It means not only to move back to the house, is to make sure that all the services needed to include education and many other services are available for them, transportation, grocery stores, and so on and so forth. And the same with the communities which are around 4 kilometers from the border, which are mainly kibbutzim and villages. And those who have to wait for us to finish rebuild their houses, what we did, we built new neighborhood, alternative neighborhoods near other villages and kibbutzim over Israel as an alternative neighborhood for them with all the facilities needed. And we did it quite fast. The Israeli government invested quite a lot in that. But compared to what General Amidor mentioned in the north, here in the south, it was a very massive investment, and we can see results. We can see the fact that they are moving back. And I don't want to go into too much details, but practically speaking, it's to rebuild, trust between them, the government, them, the military, them, the different agencies and ministries over Israel. Without talking about, a population of 65,000, however, 21,000 of them are, kids. Most of them in kindergarten, schools, elementary schools, and so on and so forth. And we are aiming really to help them, not just to be back, but we are really dealing with their resilience, well-being, and obviously their security. So this is the mission of the directorate, and it's going to be working for the next 5 years. The head of the directorate is the head of the atomic energy division. From that, you can understand how important it was for the prime minister and for the Israeli government. And I can assure you that at the end of the day, it will be a flourishing area, a different Negev in many senses. And I'll be happy to answer later on questions about that.
כמה communities לא חוזרים כי זה הרוס לגמרי וצריך לבנות.
Okay, so we have from 47 communities, we have 10 communities which were severely damaged. And if I want to be very specific, we are talking about 4 that can't really be back to their kibbutz or their village because they were damaged severely. It will take us time to fix it. However, in certain places, we are already working to start and to fix it and to rebuild it. In certain places, they wanted us really to redesign their kibbutz and their neighborhood. You know that kibbutz is a collective community. So every decision has to be taken collectively. So the decision process is not as fast as it is in the military, but we are very patient and very tolerant here with them. And we are trying to work concurrently in order to make it ready for them to be back.
Thank you, Aish. I look forward in future weekly updates to hopefully hearing continuing hopeful news on that front, because I think this is something that, having been to Israel since October 7th, I think it's my 10th trip there with Jinsa, I was struck by the impact of the shock of October 7th in that regard, and then also the importance of all the work you're describing in getting Israel back on its feet and addressing a lot of these concerns of its citizens. There's still a lot to get through on various fronts. I'll just remind our audience, we've got a few questions already in the queue that I'm going to get through in the back half here. But just a reminder, if you do have questions, type them into the Q&A box, and we'll do our best to get to them. General Amador, I'd like to return back to you with the first stab at this question. We've seen in recent weeks increasing sort of ad hoc U.S. efforts to try to alleviate the humanitarian situation in Gaza. We saw some U.S.-led airdrops, and then also now the story about a U.S.-led effort to build a temporary port on Gaza's shores to start surging in humanitarian aid. Could you give us your thoughts on, I guess, first of all, what the humanitarian situation is like in Gaza? I know you've said there's potentially some progress already underway, and then also what effect might these U.S.-led efforts have on helping on that front?
I think it's a very important question. First, there was and there is still a huge argument in Israel about that. Many Israelis say that you don't bring food to your enemy in the middle of the war. The United States of America didn't bring food to Mosul during the 9 months of the battle on Mosul. You fight against the enemy and you do whatever it is that you will be weaker, not stronger. But the decision of the government of Israel was contrary to that argument, that Israel will provide whatever we can to the people in Gaza, knowing that part of it, and maybe the majority of it, will be looted by Hamas and will be used by Hamas either to provide to his members and their families, or to sell it in the market and to have more money to use. So the decision is to do whatever we can. Part of it is coming through Egypt, part of it is coming through Israel, and the Americans feel that it is not enough. The problem is not the number of trucks going into the Gaza Strip. The main problem or the main challenge is the distribution. We are not ready that Hamas will distribute it, and there is no any alternative. And what we are doing now is we try to find ways to distribute it inside the Gaza Strip, to bring it to our different places. So in each place, the local guys will be responsible for that. To bring a lot of humanitarian help, so and even if they if they are looting the tracks, there is enough inside Gaza Strip that at the end it will find its way to more people. The problem is Hamas' interest is totally different. Hamas' interest is to bring the population into a crisis that the United Nations and other agencies would say, hey guys, Israel is starving the population of Gaza. There is no lack of food or water in Gaza. There is no way to distribute it in a way that everyone will get what he should get. And Hamas will do whatever it can till it can to do it. That will not work because their interest is to make the crisis even more problematic. One of the dropping is is not too much the numbers at the end. When you do it, that cannot change the situation. What good in that is it is going to many places at the same time, so no one can take control of all the humanitarian aid which is coming from the air. Now there is first shipment from Cyprus, and we will build something very primitive that it can be unloaded in Gaza. But again, how it will be distributed, a good question. The Americans have a plan to build something which is equivalent of what was built in Overload, kind of
Mulberry.
Yes. I don't know. We are going to make some joint planning with the CENTCOM and to learn what does it mean, how far it is from the seashore, from the shore. I mean, and how deep it is in the sea, what can reach it, what cannot reach it. I mean, this is something new. If that works, it will be fantastic. That will bring the whole humanitarian help into the center of Gaza. It will be easier to distribute it instead of taking it from the south, from the pass in Egypt, the Rafah pass, and to bring it all through across all the Gaza Strip. Let's see. We don't stop any trucks from going in. There are demonstrations against those trucks in Israel because people are saying before they are releasing our hostages, we should not give them any food. But the decision of the government of Israel is to do it. And the police is taking care for the demonstrations. And
General, if I could, just a follow-up question on this issue of the port, and this is a question coming from Jay Solomon of Semaphore. Are you worried that U.S. forces building the pier in Gaza could be targeted by Hamas, other Iranian proxies, or jihadist groups like ISIS?
I'm sure that the CENTCOM has the ability to make the good plan and to implement it. I'm not going to give the Americans my view about it. It's American decision, and they will do it better than me.
General Aish, do you have any thoughts on that particular issue? Because I know it's certainly a burning question here in the States.
I'll answer Jay's question. As J3, I had the privilege of planning together with my colleagues back then in UCOM, and today the same is done by the J3 with the CENTCOM. So we know to coordinate, via all the relevant channels, i.e. intelligence and many others, to include the security and maritime presence and so on, in order to make sure that once this mission is going to be carried out, it's going to be totally secure. And there are many envelopes that can be provided by American forces, Israeli forces. This is something happening already in other sectors without describing it in too many details, and can happen over here now. I would like to relate to something very basic happening in Gaza, and in a way very much connected to the humanitarian effort. The Israeli goal is to destroy and dismantle Hamas as an entity in Gaza and to release the hostages. And for that sake, there are four elements which are highly relevant. One is, to eliminate the leadership, to include the military leadership. The second one is to eliminate the military capabilities. The third one is to eliminate the infrastructure, mainly now the underground infrastructure. And the fourth one is the administrative capabilities of Hamas, which are very much linked to the humanitarian effort. As long as those two elements are collided, we have here a riddle which is not solved. We can continue to provide the Gaza from Rafah, from the sea, from the north, with all the humanitarian effort. As long as Hamas is looting it and selling it in the black market and providing his own militants with it, and at the end of the day, you are feeding the beast. So this is a very challenging strategic collision, which were not solved yet. And in a way, it's more than just the humanitarian challenge. It's part of the strategic goal, and in order to achieve it, it has to be solved. And I know that it is something on the table, within the IDF, between the IDF and the Israeli government, and between the Israeli government and our colleagues in the US. But we have to be aware that right now it's far more than just to provide or not to provide, Gaza with food and all the humanitarian supplies needed over there. It's at the end of the day a big question: who is going to control it? Who is going to distribute it? Who is going to make sure that no one deals with it unless he's permitted to? And the last element that was mentioned by General Amidor is to make sure that Hamas is not taking from it what they need in order to sustain his military capabilities.
Thank you, Aish.
And by the way, if I may add, we don't know even what American idea is. It will be American in the sea, Israelis on the shore? Will it be involvement of other countries and so on and so forth? We have to learn it, but we are more than open to any American suggestion.
So a follow-on, slightly related question, and we've been touching on some of the potential strains in the U.S.-Israel relationship, at least at a high political level. And just earlier today, Senator Chuck Schumer said in the Senate that made comments to the effect that he thinks the Netanyahu government should go, I guess, to put it politely. So General Amador, I'll first pose this question to you. It's a follow-up from Jay Solomon. Are you concerned the Biden administration is trying to interfere in Israel's internal politics? The White House confirmed that Senator Schumer coordinated his message today with the Biden administration.
I think that the Americans know very well that Israel is a democracy, very energetic democracy. We had 5 elections in less than 4 years. I'm sure that everyone in America understands that it is the Israelis who will elect their parliament, the Knesset, and the parliament will vote for the government. And I think between democracies there are some rules that one is not preaching to the other about who should be elected. So I don't think that the White House will interfere against all the democratic rules in the other democratic country, in the way that the citizens of this democracy are voting for and against in free elections. And everyone knows that in Israel it's more than free. And we will not tell the Americans whom to vote for, and I hope the Americans will not tell us whom to vote for.
General Aish, is there anything you'd like to add on this question before I move on?
No, I would answer it the same. That's how it should be. It's not, democracy is not the best form of governing, but governance. But I'm not familiar with the better one.
You
This
and
is it.
Churchill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The worst form of government except for all the others. So I
Exactly.
do want to be fair to our audience and get through a lot of the remaining questions here. I guess, General Aisha, I'll pose this one first to you. It's pretty broad and covers potentially a lot of things. And then before going to General Amador, what is happening in Jordan?
Okay, so it's a very interesting and sensitive question. I'm not relating to internal affairs in Jordan, but I would like to say a word about what is going on along the border, because we have seen at the beginning of the escalation in October, certain attempts to exploit that area in order to infiltrate into Israel. In fact, one of the UAVs came from Syria, came from that area to the area of Eilat. Having said that, on the ground, there were a few attempts, but I have to stress the fact that the Jordanians did a very good work in order to make sure that the border is secured and protected. And you know that for us, the relations with Jordan is a strategic interest, and for us, it's like having a strategic depth up to the border with Iraq. To that extent, it's so important. So we respect their sovereignty, they respect ours, and it seems that they are doing what is needed to be done in order to make sure that their side is secured, and we are doing the same. That's basically the situation right now.
And by
General
the way,
Amador,
by the way, they are taking part in the dropping operation and
effort.
humanitarian operation. In the past, there was a convoy coming from Jordan directly to the Gaza Strip with the help. Now they are dropping it from air, and then from our point of view, we are welcoming the involvement of Jordan in these humanitarian operations.
General Amador, just to quickly follow up on that, and certainly don't let me try to put words in your mouth. We've seen some recent comments, at least from the Jordanian royal family, highly critical of Israel, but we've seen those in the past, and the strong security cooperation continues sort of under the table. Do you see this as just more of the same? Is this sort of business as usual, the political and the strategic?
It's not just security. We have to sign the water agreement between Israel and Jordan, and which is essential to Jordan. And there are some other areas in which we are and the Jordanians are cooperating. We understand the sensitivity of the Jordanians regime because of the number of Palestinians living in Jordan. I think that both countries understand where are the red lines, and both are not crossing it. Because it's the interest of both of them to have good relations. It's not just about security, as I mentioned.
Yeah. So in the little time we have left, one of the things I want to do is come back to the issue of Gaza itself. I think General Amador, you mentioned there's some patience in Israel to still let negotiations play out, see if you can get a ceasefire for hostages deal. But as you also mentioned, Israel keeps agreeing to these deals and Hamas keeps saying no. Do you have a sense of how much, I guess, patience Israel has left, especially if at the same time that Israel is trying to complete its objectives against Hamas, you've also got a humanitarian situation that's getting worse?
We didn't stop. We were now making some raids in the north. We continue to operate in Khan Yunis, and if we will have any opportunity, we will do it on other places as well. in the center or in Rafah itself. We don't hesitate when we have the information which allows us to act, to strike in any place, in either by ground forces or by the air force in the Gaza Strip. So we didn't stop acting in Gaza because of the negotiations. But I think, and this is it's my private view, if there is any chance, it doesn't matter how little it is, to resume, to continue the negotiations and not to stop it, we should use it. And we will have to pay for that. I mean, to be patient. And because we are waiting to the answer of Hamas, we know that there is still a chance. I don't know how little. I don't know how to evaluate it, but it's not big. But if Hamas surprises us and will give a positive answer, that might change the whole situation. So here we have to be very cautious because of the more than 100 Israelis in their hands, huge number, some of them old, some of them women, a few babies. We should take any opportunity that we have and any possibility that exists to continue the negotiation, not stop it too early. It will take time, and it's okay. We know it will take time.
So, and just a quick follow-up, I think you answered this indirectly, but I want to ask a question from our audience straight on. Do you believe the hostages are in Rafah or outside of Gaza, or is it just too hard to know?
It's not a question of believing. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So sort of one final question I want to be sure to get to in the few minutes we have left. General Aish, I'll pose it first to you, but obviously it's open to the entire panel. Here in the United States today, we heard that the U.S. gave another sanctions waiver that potentially releases billions more to the Iranians. Is this related to what we talked about previously, the quietness of the Houthi front, or is it too hard to know? Is perhaps that Iran issue separate from the sanctions issue?
You know, Israel is dealing with 6 different fronts. 4 of them immediately supported by Iran. You know, definitely Hamas, definitely Hezbollah, definitely the Houthis, and we didn't mention yet the militias from Syria. All of them were built, trained, equipped by Iran. And what they are getting for that? $10 billion. I have nothing more to add. You know, it's again, it's like feeding the beast. What can I say about that? I think it's the wrong direction. And if we'll add on it, what was publicized about them, you know, from intelligence sources about how advanced the nuclear program is, you know, it's a great concern for us and for the region. The whole moderate camp in the region should be concerned here. It's a boost of injection to their nuclear project and the proxies project. If they didn't have enough, now they can buy it or manufacture it.
General Amador, I'll give you the last word because this is a subject that, at least on these updates, we haven't spoken about as much. Recently, we saw that Iran offered a sort of a meaningless fig leaf of cutting down its 60% enriched uranium stockpile ever so slightly, perhaps on the hopes the Biden administration would see that as a positive sign. But we've heard a lot less about the Iranian nuclear issue, given everything else that's going on. How do you assess sort of the state of that program and Israel's potential attitude toward it right now?
I hope that both Washington and Jerusalem understand that the real issue in the Middle East is Iran. With all due respect to all the others. It's the head of the beast. They are financing, helping, training, whatever is needed to promote those organizations. They build the ring of fire around Israel. They are assessing the Houthis to launch missiles, and drones, and so on and so forth. Everything is coming, almost everything is coming directly or indirectly from Iran. They are involved in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon. So here, I think that the two capitals and the decision makers in both will have to go back to the table, sitting together and decide how to stop Iran. Otherwise, the whole Middle East will be looked very bad within 2 years. Very, very bad. It's not just what the Iranians will do. It's what the other countries understand from the fact that the Americans and Israelis is doing nothing to stop Iran. And here, America has to do more than Israel.
On that closing note, I would like to remind everyone in our audience to learn more about a lot of these subjects, just go to ginsa.org. And also I'd flag for everyone's attention tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, 24 hours from right now, GINSA will be having a separate webinar to roll out the report from our new Gaza Futures Task Force, looking at Gaza the day after and recommendations for U.S.-led efforts to deal with that issue. Thank you again, as always, to Generals Amador and Aish for their time, especially at this late hour in Israel. And thank you again to our audiences for joining, and look forward to seeing you again either tomorrow and or next week for the next Gaza War update. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan. תודה, מדרור. להתראות.
תודה.
Thank you.